Hello and welcome to CNN. I'm your host Creeper79 and today's top stories. The war in Ukraine reaches the 1 month mark as civilians flee the violence. A blow to the legacy of the coalition government is delivered by the Conservatives as the Fixed Term Parliaments Act is repealed. China sees another surge in COVID-19 cases as the first COVID deaths in nearly a year are reported. And Italy is knocked out of the World Cup qualifiers after North Macedonia delivers them a crushing 1-0 defeat. The war in Ukraine has now been going on for a month, resulting in the deaths of countless Ukrainians and the loss of several high-profile Russian generals, alongside creating a massive humanitarian crisis on a scale not seen since the Second World War. The administration has options, and there is precedent in emergencies like this for moving large groups of people to the US, said Melanie Naser, Senior Vice President for Global Public Affairs at the HAIS, a global Jewish non-profit that protects refugees, in an interview. The Kosovo Albanians in the 90s were airlifted to an army base in New Jersey, and their refugee processing was finished here. Currently, some Ukrainians with family members in the US can be admitted as refugees under the Lautenberg program, which is open to certain religious minorities. Others can be sponsored by their relatives to receive immigrant visas. Though they typically face extensive red tape, Ukrainians who arrived in the US before the 1st of March have been granted temporary protected status. But questions remain about how the Biden administration will proceed, including whether asylum seekers from African countries who have faced difficulty fleeing Ukraine will be included, and how refugees who are already awaiting resettlement will be affected. The US needs a much more robust refugee and asylum policy, Naser said, pointing to the Afghan refugee crisis that preceded the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now's the time to pour resources when we have all this community support and the American people are really so much on board. Now's the time to fix the problems, rebuild and be ready to be a welcoming nation again. Some Ukrainians desperate to come to the US, along with Russians and Belarusians fleeing political oppression, are trying their luck at the US-Mexico border with mixed results. A US Customs and Border Protection (CBP) officers can exempt Ukrainians from Title 42, a Trump-era policy continued by the Biden administration that has been used to turn away hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers, ostensibly to present the threat of COVID-19. Public health experts have called that rule scientifically baseless, politically motivated, and inhumane. After the Title 42 exemption guidance was made public on the 17th of March, Ukrainians who walk up to the border crossing and show their passports will generally be let in, said Erika Pinheiro, the Litigation and Policy Director for Al Otro Lado, a non-profit that provides legal and humanitarian assistance at the border. Most of the Ukrainians admitted since then have been granted 1 year of humanitarian parole, she said. The desperate treatment is striking, Pinheiro said. The Europeans are being treated like human beings, and the black and brown migrants are being screamed at and told to get back, told to just go away, and others are sometimes just told to wait. The Fixed Terms Parliament Act, FPTA, has been handed its death sentence after it was repealed in Parliament. The Dissolution and Calling a Parliament Bill, the replacement for the FPTA, received royal assent from the Queen on Thursday, thereby rescinding legislation designed to stop an incumbent party from gaining an unfair advantage by choosing the date of a general election. Brendan O'Hara, the SNP MP for Argyll and Bute, slammed the government's plans to deny further power to Parliament. He described it as MPs abdicating the responsibility to the executive, adding, "Electoral calculus and the position of the governing party at that time will govern and decide when we will have a general election. It is wrong, and it is unacceptable, I believe, in a modern democracy." Labour's Shadow Minister, Alex Norris, said, "It ensures against a capricious Prime Minister, perhaps one losing the confidence of their own benches in the light of, in a hypothetical, significant issues of judgment or personal character, cannot just go and throw everything in the air in their own interest." He added, "By including a parliamentary rubber stamp on dissolution, we remove any risk whatsoever of dragging the Crown into such a decision." China's national health authorities reported 2 coronavirus deaths last Saturday, the first recorded rise in the death toll since January last year as the country battles from an Omicron-driven surge. The deaths, both in the northeastern Jilin province, bring the country's coronavirus death toll to 4,638. China reported 2,157 new community transmissions, with the majority being in Jilin. The province has instituted a travel ban, with people needing permission from police to travel across borders. China has continued to impose a zero-COVID strategy since the initial outbreak in Wuhan. The strategy focuses on mass testing and strict lockdowns, with residents banned from leaving their homes until all new cases are either found in quarantine or through contact tracing. With China now facing its worst outbreak since late 2019, officials have vowed to double down on the zero-tolerance strategy to contain the current surge. However, China's leader, Xi Jinping, acknowledged for the first time the burden of the measures on Thursday, saying that China would seek maximum effect with minimum cost in controlling the virus. China had recorded 4,636 deaths since the pandemic began in the central city of Wuhan in late 2019. It revised its death toll once in April 2020, adding in new deaths that were initially not counted as the pandemic overwhelmed the city's hospitals and other systems. Mainland China's COVID-19 data is counted separately from that in Hong Kong, which is a special administrative region in China and is facing a much larger outbreak with a higher death toll. And finally, Italy missed out on the World Cup finals again after losing 1-0 at home to North Macedonia in their playoff semi-final as Alexander Trajovski's last gasp strike earned the visitors a famous win. Italy did not qualify for the World Cup 4 years ago, missing out for the first time since 1958, but the European champions dominated from the off in Palermo. The hosts became more desperate in their search for a winner after the break. However, as chances continued to come and go before, in stoppage time, Trajovski arrowed in with a stunning winner to spark wild North Macedonian celebrations. While Mancini's Italy side had 32 efforts at goals in the match, but somehow fell short, with North Macedonia going on to play Portugal in the playoff final Tuesday for a place in Qatar. "It really is a huge disappointment," the Italy midfielder Giorgino said. It hurts so much. We have always created and dominated matches, but we have not been able to finish teams off. It is not to blame anyone in particular, but it is the reality. I don't know why we haven't been able to do this. I am also involved in this, and it hurts me to think so much about it. Without the veteran pairing, Leonardo Bonucci and Giorgio Chiellini through injury, Italy's makeshift defence was barely troubled in the first half, as all the action took place down the other end. Thank you for watching CNN. All information is correct as of the 26th of March 2022. I've been your host, Creeper79, and thank you for watching.